and welcome to Pick 6, Part 2 of the NFL's Week 1 opener of the 2014-2015 NFL season. And as you saw on Thursday, the Seahawks defeated the Green Bay Packers 36-16. In that game on Thursday night, Aaron Rodgers had a pretty bad night. He completed 23 of 33 passes for 189 yards and a touchdown, an interception. He was also sacked 3 times, and one of those sacks caused a fumble, and that went into the end zone and caused a safety. Eddie Lacy, who I thought would have a bigger impact, only had 12 rushes for 34 yards and also suffered a concussion in the fourth quarter of that game. Jordy Nelson had 9 receptions for 83 yards and 0 touchdowns. On the Seahawks side, they had a little bit more success as Russell Wilson completed 19 of 28 passes for 181 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Marshawn Lynch had a huge game. He had 20 rushes for 110 yards and 2 touchdowns. And also Percy Harvin, who was targeted 7 times all last season, was targeted 7 times this game and had 7 receptions for 59 yards. And if you didn't know, we pick 6 games a week on Pick 6. I already talked about the Green Bay and Seattle game, so I'm going to talk about the Saints versus the Falcons, the Cowboys versus the 49ers, the Broncos versus the Colts, the Lions versus the Giants, and finish off with the Cardinals taking on the Chargers. So we have the Saints taking on the Falcons in a good old NFC South rivalry. This is going to be a really good game in the Georgia Dome, as you have Drew Brees led in the Saints and Matt Ryan in the Falcons. The Falcons were 4-12 last season, and they had a horrible season as the Saints beat them both times, Week 1 last year in New Orleans and also Week 15 in Atlanta. So the Atlanta Falcons are looking for a little revenge here and trying to start off a good season after a horrible season. The Saints here had a great 11-5 season but struggled on the road, so this should be a test for them. So my first point is Drew Brees versus this new Atlanta defensive secondary. Atlanta last year ranked 27th in total defense, 31st against the run, and 31st against the pass last year. They had a horrible defensive season after in 2012 they ranked near the top of the league in total defense, rush defense, and run defense. So if the Atlanta Falcons haven't fixed those problems in the secondary or their front seven, they're going to have a lot of trouble because Drew Brees comes into town with the best tight end in Jimmy Graham. They have their first round draft pick in Brandon Cooks. You still have Marcus Colston. You got the Saints trying to run the ball now with Mark Ingram and Pierre Thomas and Kyrie Robinson. You got the great offensive line. You have the great mind of Sean Payton. They also have to deal with a great Saints defense that has signed former Buffalo Bills safety Jarris Byrd to a 6-year deal for $60 million. He's going to be that ball-hawking safety they didn't have last year, as the Saints failed to force turnovers near the end of the last year. It's going to be a great game. I think Matt Ryan will have success against Julio Jones and Roddy Wright down the field, but they did lose Tony Gonzalez, so they won't have their presence over the middle of the field like they usually do. So I think the Saints will have a little bit more success in covering those 2 wide receivers, as you have Keenan Lewis back there. Also on the other side, Patrick Robinson. We don't know how he will do as the number 2 corner. You still got Junior Gillette and Cameron Jordan in their front 4, who combined for 24.5 sacks a year ago. And you have Hakeem Hicks, a rising star, and Roger Brunkley on that defensive line. Rob Ryan will use a lot of different schemes of blitzes against the Atlanta Falcons and this revamped offensive line, who already lost their left tackle for the year. So Matt Ryan will have to adjust there. They're still trying to find a running game, as Steven Jackson had a lot of injury problems last year. They still have Jarquez Rogers. So we'll see if the Falcons can run against this Saints defense. And my final point before I make the prediction of this game is the New Orleans offense versus the Atlanta Falcons offense. And what I mean by that is who has more weapons. On Atlanta side, you have Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, Roddy White, and Harry Douglas. You have Jarquez Rogers, and you have Steven Jackson. The 2 factors are they lost Tony Gonzalez. He retired last year in his final year. And you don't know how healthy Steven Jackson is going to be. On the New Orleans side, you have the 3-headed monster at running back with Mark Ingram, Pierre Thomas, and Kyrie Robinson. You have Drew Brees, who's thrown for 5,000 yards through the last season and 4 times in the last 6 seasons. You have Jimmy Graham, the best tight end in the NFL. You have Marcus Colston. You have Brandon Cooks, the speedy wide receiver. And that's why I think the Saints have the advantage in this game. not just their defense, but their offense, and that will propel them to a 31-21 victory as Matt Ryan throws a pivotal fourth quarter interception as they try to drive and take the lead against the Saints. And next, you got the Cowboys, America's team, versus the San Francisco 49ers in AT&T Stadium. You have the Cowboys and their putrid defense from a year ago, and it doesn't look like they fixed it, against the 49ers who have their problems on defense, but it's not with lack of talent, it's just suspensions and injuries of that nature. My first factor of this game is will Tony Romo's back hold up. He's going up against a very physical 49ers defense, even with the loss of Aldon Smith and the absence of Navarro Bowman. I still think this defense is one of the best defenses in the NFL, and I think they will have their chances to hit Romo in this game. You will see Patrick Willis and Ahmad Brooks coming off their respective linebacker positions up the middle and off the edge, trying to get to Romo, trying to see if that back is all healthy. They have their revamped secondary. My second point, we're going to continue with this 49ers defense, and it's banged up. You have Aldon Smith, who's suspended for 9 games. Navarro Bowman will be back in the middle of the season. You don't know how that front line will be now that Ray McDonald may not be playing. He was arrested for being accused of domestic violence, and you know the NFL's new rules and policy on domestic violence. I believe that's a factor of how the Cowboys will be able to move their offense against this 49ers defense. My final fact, or really factor of this game, is Colin Kaepernick throwing the ball against this Cowboys defense. If you didn't watch the 49ers preseason this year, you are lucky, because the 49ers offense was horrible. I mean, they couldn't throw the ball against anybody. So I guess they're glad to see the Cowboys, whose defense was just historically bad last year as a franchise, and it's going to probably be worse this year. He has the weapons, Colin Kaepernick. He got paid $126 million. He has the weapons in Vernon Davis. He has a running back in Frank Gore. He has Michael Crabtree and Anquan Bolden. I mean, there's no reason he shouldn't have at least 300 yards passing and 3 touchdowns against this Cowboys secondary. And I think he will. But it won't be because of Michael Crabtree and Anquan Bolden, just them two. They'll have a okay and solid game. But it would be because of Vernon Davis and his mismatch against any other Cowboys linebackers. They have question marks at the linebacker position. I see Vernon Davis having 150 yards receiving and at least one of those 3 touchdowns, if not 2. That's a big factor because the Cowboys, they don't have any safeties that can cover Vernon Davis, nor linebackers. He's too big for safeties, but he's too fast for linebackers, so we'll see what happens. And my prediction for this Cowboys versus 49er game, it won't be close. It will be close until the fourth quarter, but the 49ers will pull away, and they will win 34-17. Colin Kaepernick has a big game against this Cowboys defense. Tony Romo has a decent game, but I believe his defense lets him down, and the Cowboys start off their, probably, as many people think, horrible season, 0-1. Sunday Night Football, you have the Broncos and the Colts. You have Peyton Manning, the greatest regular season quarterback in NFL history, going against Andrew Luck, his successor in Indianapolis. Last year, the Colts defeated the Broncos 39-33 in Indianapolis, and Peyton Manning's return to Indy. This year, I think it'd be a little different because it's in Denver, and also because Peyton Manning is looking for revenge after being blown out 43-8 in Super Bowl 48. The number one factor in this game is going to be Peyton Manning versus Andrew Luck. Whichever quarterback plays better will definitely have the greatest impact on who wins this game. You have Peyton Manning, who had the greatest statistical regular season for a quarterback in NFL history. 5,477 passing yards, 55 touchdowns, league MVP. You have Andrew Luck, who's thrown for 4,000 yards in his first 3 seasons, more than any other quarterback in NFL history. I mean, you're talking about, a future Hall of Famer and somebody who's trying to get to that level. It's going to be a great game. I think Peyton Manning has more weapons. He has a running game. You don't know about the Colts offensive line and their running game with Trent Richardson. But here's another factor how he's going to play, but I'll get to that later. But I think Peyton Manning will play better. I think we'll be closer than many people expect. And I think that Peyton Manning will have a pretty big day, probably 400 yards passing, 4 touchdowns. I see maybe 1 pick off maybe a slip or something misread by Manning. Andrew Luck, on the other hand, will also have a good day, but I think he will throw 2 pivotal picks. He seems to always throw a pick or two in big games. He did it in the playoff wild card game. Threw two picks against the Chiefs. He had 4 against the Patriots in their divisional round game a year ago. So I see him throwing 2 picks. I see him still having a big day against his Broncos defense. I still think they're improving. I don't see much from DeMarcus Ware this year, early this year. You don't know about Hakeem Talib. Can he stay healthy? And can TJ Ward really be that safety that the Broncos paid him to be? My second factor is going to be no Wes Welker for this game, or for the first 4 weeks of this NFL season. Wes Welker wouldn't have probably played even if he hadn't got suspended. He had the concussion, as y'all know, against the Texans. He got suspended for using an illegal drug or substance abuse policy. And so he was very upset about that, but that's a big factor because he's a mismatch against the slot. Even at his age, he can match up with any corner. He's a mismatch man. He loves to go to him on short third down routes, option routes. They even put him at the running back position. Out of the backfield, he's still a weapon. I think missing that, even with Emmanuel Sanders, they could play him in the slot. And Demaryius Thomas and Julius Thomas, that is a big weapon that Peyton Manning will miss this Sunday. And my final factor for the Broncos and Colts game is Trent Richardson. Will he be able to run the ball against this Broncos defense? Last year, he only averaged 2.9 yards per carry as he struggled, as he was traded in the middle of the season from the Cleveland Browns. He struggled to run the ball. He says it was because he had to learn the playbook in the new offensive system. He's had a whole offseason to do that. I think he will have some success against his Broncos defense that's revamped. I think that will help Andrew Luck. I still don't think it's enough to help them win, but he will be a huge factor in this game. My final prediction for this game, I see the Broncos winning 38-24 as they pull away with 2 late touchdowns in the 4th quarter. The Monday night game between the Giants and Lions is a very interesting game. You have the Giants who struggled offensively in the preseason, and the Lions who showed very good offensive weapon skill sets at the wide receiver position. You know you got Calvin Johnson. They added Golden Tate. They have Matthew Stafford, Reggie Bush. They have Brandon Pettigrew. That's a lot of weapons the Giants will have to stop. And I don't think even with their offseason acquisitions on defense, that will be enough for them to beat the Lions on Monday night. Their offensive problems will be a big problem. You know the Lions, they have the good front four and the pass rush led by Ndamukong Suh. We still don't know about their corners. Will they be able to hang with the Giants wide receivers? But I think the Giants offense is better. I believe the Lions offense is better than the Giants offense and defense, and that's why the Lions will win this game. But my 3 factors of this game are Calvin Johnson versus the Giants secondary. Calvin Johnson, really nobody can stop him. He's really unguardable. He's 6'5". You can put him anywhere in the slot, on the outside. He's really pretty much unguardable. He led the league in receiving yards 2 years ago, and actually is the all-time leading receiver with the most yards in one season. So I believe he will have a huge day. Golden Tate will be a big X factor in this game. He will be the weapon that Matthew Stafford needs when they double team and triple team Calvin Johnson. He can play it. You can put him in the slot. You can put him on the outside. He can go deep. He will block for running back. So he'll be a huge X factor. Final prediction for this game: it will be a low-scoring game. I say the Lions win 21-17. I think their offense is just a little bit too much with Calvin Johnson, Golden Tate, Reggie Bush, and Matthew Stafford and the rest of those guys against an unproven Giants defense. And I say the Giants offensive line gives up 3 sacks, 2 by Ndamukong Suh to this Lions defense. Eli Manning struggles. He throws at least 2 picks. He does get 2 touchdowns, as the Lions will beat the Giants on Monday Night Football in the first Monday Night Football game. And the final game of Week 1 is the Cardinals hosting the Chargers. This will be a very interesting game. You have many factors, and my first one is Carson Palmer versus Phillip Rivers. Whichever quarterback makes the least amount of mistakes, their team will have the best chance to win. And that guy, in my opinion, is Phillip Rivers. He was very efficient last year, completed 68% of his passes, passed for over 4,000 yards. Carson Palmer, on the other hand, had up and down games. It was times where he had great games. It was times where he had a game like he did, even though they won in Seattle. He threw 4 picks. So whichever Carson Palmer shows up will be a big factor in this game. My second factor of this game is Larry Fitzgerald playing in the slot. This will be his first year playing in the slot. You know he's used to playing outside. I mean, will that be a big factor? Will he be hampered by that? Or will that just have him thrive against the second or maybe third corner of the opposing team's defense? I mean, I think it will help him. I mean, it may be different playing in the slot because you're used to playing on the outside, but he'll be going up against probably shorter corners. I mean, you can get him in the middle of the field. He still has that breakaway speed, as you saw in the preseason. He still has some of the best hands in the NFL. He's a great route runner. So, I mean, Carson Palmer, he can use him almost like a blanket, a safety blanket, when it's third down or something like that. So I think that would be a huge X factor. And my final X factor is Daniel Woodhead, the running back for San Diego, against these Cardinals linebackers. Can they match up with him? Will they play zone? Will they put a safety on him? Will they nudge him at the line of scrimmage? He's a very interesting player. He's like a Darren Sproles. You can put him, he can run. I mean, he's short, but he can run routes out of the backfield. You can put him on option routes, wheel routes, whatever you want. He's a hard blocker. I mean, if he has a good game, I say if he has 50 yards rushing, 50 yards receiving, 100 yards of total offense, that's pretty bad for the Cardinals defense. If he has a bad game, the Cardinals will have a better chance of winning and stopping Phillip Rivers, getting to Phillip Rivers, and forcing a few turnovers that they need to win this game. I'm going to go with the Chargers winning on the road in Arizona with a score of 31-21 as Carson Palmer throws 2 interceptions. Phillip Rivers is turnover free and has a huge day against his Cardinals defense. And now it's time for my 6 bold predictions for Week 1. Number 1, 4 QBs will throw for over 400 yards in tomorrow's games or Monday night's game. Number 2, the referees will not be a factor in the results of close games or even blowouts. I think they will fix these tic-tac penalties for holding and illegal contact down the field. Number 3, Andrew Luck and Peyton Manning will combine to pass for over 900 yards and 9 touchdowns in a very high-scoring game in Denver. Number 4, the 49ers will rush for over 300 yards against the putrid Cowboys defense in a Week 1 win. Number 5, the Jaguars will upset the Philadelphia Eagles. I think the Eagles will come in thinking that they will just blow out this team. They have a great offense, but they're going up against a pretty underrated defense. I mean, they have a few players that they got out of free agency from Seattle, from that Super Bowl team. They have talent. We just don't know about the offense. But I'm going to predict they will defeat the Philadelphia Eagles. And number 6, there will be at least 1 pick 6 in Week 1. Enjoy Week 1. Hope your team has the best of luck. And let's get this season started off strong. This has been Pick 6 with Timothy Claiborne. Enjoy Week 1, and I'll see you Thursday night as the Pittsburgh Steelers go against the Baltimore Ravens.